I'm gonna apologize ahead of time, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Just hang in there with me here. It's June, so if you want content, you've come to the right place. It's not always great content. Dean Leggy, Matt DeBerry. Hey, listen, Georgia is ranked number one in ESPN's made-up FPI. This is a football power index. It's always goofed up and wrong. This is not like Bill Conley, who does a SP plus. That's a very different thing. This is not the betting. But here we go. Here's our top five. You know what? We'll go top 10, Matt. Wow, I'm seeing one of these right now. And wow. Our 10 is Missouri, 9, Tennessee, 8, Oklahoma, Notre Dame at 7, 6, Penn State, Alabama at the 5, Ohio State 4, Texas 3, Oregon 2, Georgia 1.
I think you've got a lot of programs with we know who the quarterback is, right? When I'm looking at these lists, I'm thinking, is there a quarterback coming back? Brady Cook, I believe, is coming back to Missouri. Is that right?
Yes.
He's a good quarterback. I think he's better than people think.
He is good.
Tennessee's got that new quarterback that they went out and spent a lot of NIL money on, the 5-star from 2 years ago. I'm just going to call him Nico. Nico for now.
Would you have Tennessee as a top 10 team?
Around there.
Okay.
Around there. But again, I need to see more of him. He played well against Iowa.
Would you have Oklahoma as a top 10 team? Okay. Thank you.
And they need that quarterback to be really good. Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, dude, what are we talking about right now? Like, we had this discussion the other day in the car with Dan. How you can't just have one person that you're sweating. Is this guy going to be really good or not? No, that's not how this works. You need really good players everywhere, and your quarterback has to be functional. They got to be Jake Fromm or Jake Fromm light. You know, like they don't have to go out there and fake out half the team with runs like Stetson Bennett or have a rocket arm like Matthew. You need functional players. Of the 22 guys that you're putting out there as starters, like 18 of them need to be good. You can't depend on Cam Newton coming and saving the day, Matt.
Yeah, but if that guy's not good, Oklahoma's definitely not a top 10 team. I'm very surprised. That's probably the biggest surprise that I have. At Penn State, their quarterback needs to take a big step forward, too. That guy couldn't do anything in the two biggest games of the season. I don't want to say he wet his pants out there, but it sure looked like it when he was throwing the ball all over the place.
And we are experts at people wetting their pants, for the record.
For sure. And there was a lot of hype about that kid, and he just was not good when it mattered most last year.
Let me keep going here because something's not right. Like, this is why I never trust FPI. I'm just going to go backwards from 20 to 11, okay? And, like, it's just like, dude, what? All right, so 20, we got the Gators. And then we've got Auburn at 19, SC at 18, Kansas at 17, Ole Miss, who people have as their top 6. FPI's got them at 16. Clemson at 15, Texas A&M at 14, LSU at 13. By the way, LSU should not be a top 15 team. They should be a top 5 to top 10 team, but whatever. I'm just talking globally. I'm not talking about this year. Michigan is at the 12 and Florida State at 11. Florida and Auburn as a top 20. What is included in this? The color orange is part of the index?
No idea. Florida's got a returning quarterback and some young, hungry players on defense. That's it. They could have a losing record, Dean, and we're putting them at number 20.
3 seasons in a row.
Well, there's no reason they should be right there. There's no reason at all. Is it a down year for college football when we're putting these bad teams in the top 25? I know you have to have 25 teams. You got to find them somewhere. And I think this poll is just trying to grab some SEC teams to fill out the top 25 when they're not good teams. Auburn's not a good team. They're going to fight Alabama and Georgia hard, and they're going to lose. But I don't get that either. That's somewhat laughable.
I don't mind the percentages. Oregon with a 37% chance to win the Big Ten. That seems high to me. Make the playoff. Georgia at 79, Oregon at 76. Those are the highest two by a lot. You just kind of get down here to like Louisville at 18%. Louisville probably doesn't have 8% chance to get to the playoff, but that's okay. Make the national championship game. Georgia at the highest at 32%. Win the national championship. Georgia at 21%. And like the betting odds, Matt, would tell you that Georgia has a significant chance to win the national championship. It's probably slightly higher than 21. I'm going to throw it to you while I do the math. But I don't mind those as long as they make sense. But like some of this stuff, I just don't even know.
I think there are four teams at the top: Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and then probably Oregon. I think those would be my four teams. And then I think there's a little bit of a gap. And then you can start talking about the rest. But Penn State hasn't shown me anything. Alabama's still a question mark. They could surprise people or they could go backwards. I think it's just talk about Alabama. I think Alabama's a question mark. I think Oregon with Dylan Gabriel they're going to be a really good team. Year 3 with Dan Lanning, I expect that defense to be a lot better. Oregon's going to be a good team, and that game against Ohio State is going to be one of the biggest games of the season. Michigan's not going to be nearly what they were last year. They lost too much. And I think LSU should probably be better than what that ranking is. I think they're bringing in a lot of talent. The quarterback, I think Nussmeier is going to be the guy this year, and he was slinging it in the second half against Georgia 2 years ago. That guy can throw the football, and if they don't end the season in the top 10, I don't know what the leash with Brian Kelly is.
What's going on here?
Yeah. They brought him in for a reason, and that was to compete for SEC and national titles. Year 3, I think it's huge for him, but I think LSU is better than Tennessee and Oklahoma right now. So I disagree with that ranking.
What do you make of LSU? Excuse me. What do you make of LSU's sort of bitter rival, Ole Miss, being so low here at 16? Like, what are people missing here with LSU? So FPI to me is a joke, but we are talking about it. It can't be that LSU is a top 6 team and a number 6. Like, why? What's the variance about right there?
Is it because they lost the 2 best receivers? I mean, it's LSU. The other guys are going to emerge
too.
there.
You lost Junkins too.
Or you talk about Ole Miss.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who did I say? Oh, I said LSU. I'm sorry. I meant Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. You look on paper. They brought in a running back, right? I know.
They brought in a lot of guys.
Transfer portal's crazy. Arkansas's star running back is at South Carolina. Judkins went to Ohio State.
Why would you do that? I've been to Fayetteville and I've been to Columbia. I mean, one is a little bit nicer than
the other. Money talks, and you could say that now with NIL. Yeah. But in South Carolina, they said, "Hey, we need a star, or else we're going to have another bad season." Shane Beamer's trying to take that program forward, so they needed him. They lost their wide receiver, Juice Wells, to Ole Miss. So on paper, they brought in Walter Nolan. They brought in some guys. So on paper, they should be really good. But my whole thing is Ole Miss is still Ole Miss. Now, Jackson Dart is still there, too. He's top 10 quarterback in the country. So on paper, they should be really good, Dean, but I don't trust them just yet.
Well, I don't trust them at all. I mean, when you look at – let me go back to Ole Miss's schedule here. I'll put it on the screen. No one will be able to see it. It's too small. Sorry about that. They host Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern. So they've cleaned up against Coker colleges of the world. Then on the last weekend of September, they did not play Kennesaw. Are you mad about that? Okay.
One day.
Opportunity missed. Then they go straight forward with 8 SEC games. So they're gonna host Kentucky, go to Columbia, South Carolina, host LSU. They're not surviving those 3 games. Week off, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia. I don't think they're surviving those 3 games. 2 of those 3 are at home. They got to go to Arkansas. And then they go to Gainesville, which seems harder than I think it might be. And then they play State at home. They can win all these games. It's actually the further back I look at it, the ones that are glaring are Baton Rouge and then hosting Georgia. Those are tough. They could go 10-2. But I think they could also lose to Kentucky. And they could lose to Oklahoma. I'm not certain. I don't think they can lose to State and the Gators, even if it's in Gainesville. Yeah. What is the story on Arkansas? Like, what should my expectations be there? They're going to open up against Pine Bluff at home. Then they go to Stillwater. Like, if you lose to Oklahoma State, that kind of tells you all you need to know about that season. Then they host UAB. They're going to play Auburn on the road, Arlington for A&M. That split game. They play Tennessee and Fayetteville. That'll be a tricky game for Tennessee, I bet. It's tough to play out there, man. LSU at Fayetteville, they go to state, they host Ole Miss, they go to Tech, or they host Texas, excuse me, they host Louisiana State, Louisiana Tech, and then they go to Missouri. Man, that's a tough schedule. Missouri, Texas, LSU, Tennessee, Texas A&M, like that's a lot of games, man.
Yeah, I don't think you can expect much from them. I just don't think they have the talent or depth to be able to keep up with those schools on a consistent basis. I still think Missouri is a team that should be really good. That people may not be. It's the stigma, like
Right.
Missouri, you know.
Yep.
But Georgia fans, I think, respect Missouri for the past 2 years and
Well, as long as they
what
got
they've
that
been able to do.
quarterback and Luther Burden, you've got a
Yeah,
problem there to begin with. They have a very
yeah.
good defense. I would say it's very solid.
It's a
They
great coaching staff.
they
They know
do
what they're
they
doing.
whipped Ohio State's ass, and they stuck with Georgia. I can't remember who they lost. They lost a really tight game to LSU. They lost to
LSU, oh,
Georgia, and that was it. They could have won that LSU game.
we watched that one. That pick six at the
Made
end
it
killed
worse.
the spread. Yeah,
But
but
but but they could have beat Georgia. I mean, something else would have had to happen in that game for them to beat Georgia. I will say that. But I think they played very well against Georgia. They
yeah,
beat Ohio State straight up. Now I don't want to hear about who played and didn't play in that game. It's starting to sound like Florida State when you do that. But anyway, that's our look at ESPN's FPI. We're kind of dismissing it.
eh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks for watching. Bye.